Okay, so get this right. Picture a sunny afternoon, April 6th, 1966. Normal day in suburban Melbourne, hundreds of kids and teachers at Westall High School, and then, bam, they all see something wild in the sky. We're talking about the Westall UFO incident.
And what really gets people about Westall, even all these years later, it wasn't some quick thing in the middle of the night. This was broad daylight, tons of witnesses.
It's true. We've got articles, documentaries, even a blog post from the State Library of Victoria, and they all say this thing just hung out, hovering over the school for like 20 minutes.
20 minutes a long time to really let it sink in that you're seeing something bizarre. Witnesses said it was this big metallic thing, kind of silver gray, maybe twice the size of a car, just floating there.
Okay, yeah, 20 minutes is way too long to just brush off. Someone had to have said it landed, right?
Well, that's where it gets even weirder. Some people are adamant it landed, others just saw it hovering. The ones who say it landed, though, they give different stories about the landing site. Some say flattened grass, others say circular patterns. Some even mention burnt ground.
Burnt ground. Okay, now that's not your average weather balloon or anything. Was there any actual proof found there?
Here's the thing. There's not much solid evidence left from back then. Adds to the mystery. A lot of the witnesses, they ran towards this area called the Grange, thought that's where it went.
Can't blame them for wanting a closer look. So what'd they find at the Grange? And what about the grown-ups? Somebody in charge had to have seen this thing.
Get this, a science teacher, Andrew Greenwood, he saw the whole thing too. And get this, he wasn't even into UFOs or anything before. But seeing that thing, he was blown away. Said he'd never seen anything move like it, especially how it just zipped away from any planes that got close.
The skeptic turned believer. That's always an interesting twist. But hold on, there's more. A 7 News Australia report, they said Greenwood, well-respected teacher and all, he was supposedly threatened, told to keep quiet, by these guys claiming to be military.
And it wasn't just him. Victor Zachraffery, one of the students, he said the headmaster basically told him to zip it about the whole thing too.
If a teacher's being pressured to stay silent for decades, imagine what the students went through. Makes you wonder, were other people told to keep quiet too? Could explain why some stories don't line up or why nobody really investigated it.
It's definitely a possibility. That whole angle of people maybe being told to shut up, it just makes Westall even more intriguing. Makes you wonder who wanted to keep it quiet and why.
Sounds like something straight out of the X-Files, but this was Melbourne. With that many people seeing it, there's gotta be some explanation. So we've got this crazy UFO sighting, people maybe being told to stay quiet, and just a ton of questions. Let's look at some of the explanations people have come up with for what was seen over Westall High.
Well, we've got a few main contenders, each with their good points and bad points. The simplest one, and what this Melbourne newspaper, The Age, said at the time, was it was just a weather balloon. They even said the Weather Bureau launched one from Laverton that morning.
A weather balloon? Sounds kind of basic, but I bet there's more to it.
Exactly. Lots of those witnesses, especially the students, they knew planes because of that Moorabbin Airport being nearby. And they were adamant this wasn't like any plane or weather balloon they'd seen.
So much for that theory. What else is there?
Okay, get this. One theory says it was something called a nylon target drug. This skeptic, Brian Dunning, he's got this podcast, Skeptoid, and he thinks maybe a drug got loose from some military plane and people mistook it. The Royal Australian Air Force used those drugs for target practice.
Huh, interesting. I guess if you didn't know military stuff, you might think it was like alien or something. Did the RAF ever actually say anything about this theory?
Funny thing is, they said it wasn't them. They said they weren't even flying that area when it happened.
So, more conflicting stories then. Some say drogue. RAF says, nope. What's the next idea?
This one's a bit wild, and it throws in some Cold War vibes. A runaway government radiation balloon. They called them highballs.
Radiation balloon. Okay, now that's not something you hear every day. What's the Westall connection?
Well, in the 60s, Australia had this project, HIBAL, for high-altitude balloon. They used them to check radiation levels, especially after those British nuclear tests in Maralinga. This researcher, Keith Basterfield, he found some old documents in the Australian National Archive, and they suggest that a HIBAL, launched way out from Mildura, might have gone off course and ended up near the school.
So this highball, that could be our mystery object. This is the most detailed explanation so far.
Hold on, not so fast. Remember Bill Chalker? He worked with Victor Zachary on that drawing of the object. Well, he said there's no way a balloon, even low down, could move like that, zipping around and vanishing. People said it was going super fast, changing direction out of nowhere, even appearing and disappearing. He says balloons, even runaway ones, you just can't do that.
Okay, so three possibilities. Weather balloon, nylon target drogue, runaway radiation balloon, all got their pros and cons. What does it all mean?
That's Westall for you. No clear answers, stories that don't totally match up, and maybe people being told to keep quiet. It's plain fascinating, even after all these years.
It really shows you sometimes the best stories are the ones that leave you with more questions. But there's one more thing about Westall, the aftermath, how it affected everyone who was there. That's a whole other part of the story, and we'll get into that in the final part of our deep dive. You know, seeing something you can't explain is one thing, but then to have people not believe you or even tell you to keep quiet about it, that's got to mess with you.
No doubt about it. A lot of those witnesses, they said nobody took them seriously, even laughed at them for talking about it. There's this documentary, Westall 66, a suburban UFO mystery, and it really gets into that side of things. They interview people who were there, and you can tell it still affects them, even after all these years.
I bet. To see something amazing and then be told you made it up or to shut up about it, that's rough, especially for the kids who were there.
And the documentary shows how that stuff stayed with them, changed how they saw authority, truth, all that. Really makes you think about the impact something like this can have.
It's a powerful thing. Something so many people saw. It's no wonder it had such a big impact on the culture there. You said they even show that documentary in Australian schools now.
Yeah, it's part of their history curriculum now. Top documentary films, they did a write-up about it, and they said it's used to teach kids critical thinking. Makes them look at different sides, weigh the evidence, and just deal with the fact that sometimes there's no easy answer.
Using something like this to teach kids how to think for themselves, that's pretty clever. Makes you wonder, maybe the fact that we still don't know for sure what happened at Westall, maybe that's what makes it so interesting.
Could be. And it goes beyond the classroom, too. They built this whole park, the Grange Reserve UFO Park, as a kind of monument to it all.
A whole park. For a UFO sighting, tell me more.
It's this playground, right near where they think it landed in the Grange. And get this, the main attraction is a giant silver UFO, like a sculpture, with slides and stuff. So even now, it's this fun reminder of the day something strange came to Melbourne.
That's amazing. Just goes to show you something like this, full of mystery and arguments, it can really leave its mark. We've looked at what people saw, the different explanations, how it changed people and the whole community, but there's still that big question. What really happened at Westall?
And that's the thing about these deep dives, right? We lay out the info, the different viewpoints, the stuff we still don't know, but ultimately, it's up to you to decide. Does it bug you that we don't have a clear answer, or do you find it exciting? Do those explanations work for you, or do you want more?
Maybe the real point of looking at stuff like Westall isn't to get a perfect answer. Maybe it's about being okay with not knowing everything, about questioning what we think is true and accepting that some things just remain a mystery. It reminds us that the world is a pretty weird and awesome place, full of unexplained stuff. And hey, that's not such a bad thing, is it?